Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mengs, and it is time for another Patreon Q&A video. This is a series that I do every so often, and my Patreon supporters basically get a chance to ask me questions, and unlike my streams where I give really short answers, because, I have a lot of questions to get through and I'm streaming, this video I take some time with each question, and I give detailed answers, or at least try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. It doesn't have to be Fire Emblem related. You can ask me pretty much anything you want, whether it be like real life. You can ask me personal questions, pretty much anything you want. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Got a lot of questions for this one, a lot of really good ones, and I hope that I'll be able to give you guys the answers you're looking for. Now, before we get started, I would like to make an announcement. So a new Patreon Hangout stream is coming up. The last one I did, I was very satisfied with, and I had a lot of fun with it. You can check it out in the video description if you haven't already. Basically, I just played Smash with my Patreon supporters, and anyone who basically got access to the Patreon lounge, which is bronze tier, it's like my lowest tier and up, anyone could challenge me and play Smash with me, and it was live streamed, and I actually was able to hang out with all my patrons on voice chat during the stream, which was a lot of fun, and I didn't think it would work at first. At some point, I thought maybe I'd have to turn off the voice chat because, it might be a little bit too chaotic, but it actually went really well, and I had a lot of fun with it, and a lot of people have been asking, when's the next stream? Well, it's coming up now on May the 16th. So the time for the stream is really simple. We start as soon as Mecha is done streaming. I think that is the best thing to do because Mecha always streams on Saturdays. And instead of setting a time, I'm just going to say, whenever Mecha's done streaming, that's when the stream starts. That way, it's kind of easy for everyone to sort of know just roughly when the stream starts. And it doesn't matter if you're not there from the start. You can always drop by, in the middle of the stream if you want. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you guys there. We'll be playing some more Super Smash. You get to kick my ass again. I think a lot of you guys enjoyed that. If you guys have any suggestions for other games that we can play, then by all means go to the Patreon lounge on Discord and tag me and offer some suggestions. I like Smash because it's nice and easy. Everyone has it, and it's like a game that, we can just play all night, and it's always fun to play. But I could always maybe do like an Animal Crossing stream or something like that too if people are up for that, but that's a little bit more complicated to get going, and it's not as fun, honestly. There's not as much you can do together in Animal Crossing, but I'm open for suggestions. But this Saturday, or Saturday the 16th, depending on when this video comes out, I'm assuming it's going to be like a week from now, but depending on how quickly Cyan edits it. But yeah, about a week from now. Hope to see a lot of you guys there. It was a lot of fun last time. Go check out the stream VOD if you haven't. We had a lot of fun. Then I have a second announcement that I would like to give you guys, and that is, I made a post for all my patrons, but I'm not sure how many people actually saw it. We live in some pretty trying times right now, and especially for a lot of people, their economy is not going great. A lot of people are out of work due to the quarantine and the lockdowns, and we may not be feeling the impact of that right now, but I probably can say that it's going to get worse. I hope it's not, but the realist in me looks at the state of the world right now, and I think things are about to get a lot worse. I would just like to say this to all my Patreon supporters: if you are struggling financially, there is absolutely no shame in revoking your pledge temporarily, and then come back once things are a little bit better for you. I will still make sure, even if you revoke your pledge this month, I will still make sure that you get to be part of the hangout that's coming up. And even further, if you are struggling financially and you actually are struggling to pay your bills, you can DM me over on Patreon and I will refund this month's pledge to you. There is a way for me to do that. I only need to click a button. I can only do it for like this month's payment. I cannot do it for more than like 1 month. So if you are, say, a silver tier patron and you figure out that, I can't really afford to spend 40 bucks on Patreon and I need to pay my bills and I don't have enough money, just DM me. I'll refund your money. It's the least I can do, honestly, to the people who keep supporting me. I have not seen a downtick in patrons. I thought I would, because, the world is going to shit. And I'm really grateful for that, guys. But please, please, please do not support me if you are struggling financially. Take care of yourself first. You can always come back and support me in easier times. And things will get better, guys. Even though things might get worse, eventually they will get better. And I don't think the world is, doomed. We will get through this together. But there might be a rough patch coming up with a lot of people out of work. So that's all I wanted to say. Now, let's get into the questions. So the first question of today comes in from a guy that I always have difficulties pronouncing the name of, Risu Kumavaga? I don't know if you're Japanese or if you just like have a weeb name, but it's a cool name. I can never pronounce it. And he asks, what is going to be your next big project on the channel? I know you are doing the Blinding Bolt, but I do not know if you have anything else you plan to do. He also asks a second question, which is completely fine, guys. You can ask multiple questions if you want. Are you ever going to do a Nyx or Radd character spotlight? So I'll answer his second question first, because I have a pretty short answer for it. There is no chance, or no plans, I should rather say, for a Radd or a Nyx character spotlight at the moment. I have a pretty long queue. I posted at the end of every one of my spotlights. Nyx or Radd is not in that queue at the moment. They could be if someone becomes a silver tier patron and requests them. I was going to do a Radd spotlight after my Shadow Dragon Let's Play, but that never really happened. I just got so many ones queued up, and I really need to get through them at some point, because some people have been waiting for their spotlights for a little bit too long for my liking. As for your first question, though, do I have any big projects coming up? Yes, I do, actually. So aside from the Blinding Bolt, which is the ROMhack that my team is working on right now, and that should maybe come out within a month or two, I have 2 big videos about Tree Houses coming out. One where I praise it, and one where I critique it. The one where I critique it is by far the longest. I think it's almost 40 minutes long. And I basically, in that video, I just tear Tree Houses to pieces. I just list everything I hate about Tree Houses. And then there's the one where I praise it, where it's just like, I think it's 15 minutes of me just talking about all the things I love about Tree Houses. And I very much suspect the criticizing video to piss a lot of people off, but hey, I mean, I think while Tree Houses was a wonderful game and probably better than any of us could have hoped for, there's still a lot to critique it for, I think. A lot of things that it does wrong, and a lot of things that really could have been done better, and there's really no excuse for them to not be as bad as they, or not be as good as they were. So basically right now I've recorded all the voice lines and finished the script and all that. I am just waiting for Jake to finish those videos, because he's the one editing them. So Jake, if you don't want to look for a new job, you might want to get those videos done. I'm just joking. Take your time. Don't rush it. I'm just joking. Like I want them to be good. So I'm not rushing Jake purposely for this, because I want them to come out well. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. As for like future big huge projects, I usually like to do like one massive video at the end of the year. At some point, I think at the end of 2018, I did like the whole My Ultimate Fire Emblem game, where I basically just made a huge video detailing like how I would make the perfect Fire Emblem game. And I didn't really follow up that video. I was gonna make like a My Ultimate Fire Emblem story, which is something that I actually would like to do. That sounds a lot harder to make though, because writing a story is a lot harder than designing a game. Like, writing a story is really hard, but at some point I would sort of like to get to work on that. The problem I have with like a writing based video is that I would want to have some artwork to go along with it, because just a story on its own without like characters to actually portray them isn't that exciting to watch video wise, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get into it at some point. So I hope that answers your question. You can definitely expect those videos. I don't know, Jake, you tell him what's the status on those 2 videos? Like, how finished are they? Just edit it in. I know you like to put clever messages underneath my face when I talk, so. So the next question comes in from Uncomplexing, and he says, "Hey Mangs, this is Uncomplexing, and I would like to ask you if you ever plan on continuing playing the Zelda franchise. Do you plan on continuing through the series, or do you have another game already planned for your stream? Thanks." So due to the time it takes me to answer these, some of these questions will sort of be outdated by the time the video comes out. At this point, you know that Twilight Princess is the next Zelda game I plan to play, so the question is sort of already answered. Yes, I absolutely loved Ocarina of Time. It was a thrilling experience to play through it, and I'm almost like salty that I missed out on such a great game as a kid. I think that, if I played Ocarina of Time as a child, there is a very big possibility that this YouTube channel would not exist. Instead, it would be replaced by a Zelda channel, I think. Fire Emblem ended up being my great passion, but had I played Ocarina of Time as a kid, I think things could have turned out very differently. Maybe for the worse, maybe for the better, I don't know. But I loved it. Zelda is a wonderful franchise, and I can definitely see why it's so dear to so many people's hearts. So yeah, after I'm done playing Twilight Princess, not gonna make any promises, but you know, there's a lot of games that I would potentially like to do. Breath of the Wild is a game that I have sitting on my Switch. I bought the Switch from a friend, came with a capture card, and it had Breath of the Wild already installed on it. I have heard though that it's not a great game to stream. Apparently because there's like an open world with a lot of places to go, and apparently like, based on what I've understand, the chat can like backseat game you quite heavily. Which, you know, is always a thing when you stream, but with Breath of the Wild, apparently, according to what Rin tells me, it's a bit tricky of a game to stream. But never say never. It might happen at some point. After I'm done with Twilight Princess, not sure where I'll go from there. People say to play Majora's Mask when I'm a little bit more experienced in the ways of Zelda. Apparently it's a very difficult game, but people still really like it. Link to the Past is also a game that would be easier for me to play, considering it's available for the 3DS. So, you know, there's a lot of possibilities for me to play Zelda on the channel, and I don't think Twilight Princess will be the last Zelda game I ever play. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, I definitely expect more Zelda on the channel to come. So the next question comes in from Anonymous, and yes, I am wearing a different shirt right now. This is filmed the day after. And he asks, what events will you have in place to grow the amount of creators in the community and ensure that each one is as diverse as the next? So, if I understand you right, you're wondering if I should host some sort of arrangements to bring out content creators. In the past, I've done like art competitions. I had one where like people drew Louise and I ranked them and I gave them like a special role. And I assume that would have given some exposure to artists. But at the end of the day, I don't really think it's my job to create events to bring forth content creators. What I will do is I will give shoutouts to those I think are underappreciated, like for example, Shanebrained, the guy who does all the Fire Emblem retrospectives. I think that's probably one of the best Fire Emblem related series on YouTube right now. And I shout out every one of his videos on my community tab because I think he deserves a lot more views. I also do Pair Up, which is a series where I mostly talk to already established content creators, not really like a series that will like bring someone new into the spotlight. So I do my part to ensure that if I see someone, I mean, I shouted Bismix out when he was like at like 2,000 subs when I found his channel initially. I'm not gonna say that I was the reason he grew big. Like, he would have done that regardless of whether or not I shouted him out. But I think as content creators, it is our job to shout people out when we see someone with talent coming onto the stage. But I don't really think it's my responsibility to host events that bring out new content creators. Like, at the end of the day, you have to make it on your own. I can give you boosts, I can give you some exposure, I can send some guys your way, but if you're not able to take that and run with that and turn it into something on your own, you're never going to succeed. And also, I can't really shout out someone who's new, right? Like, I can already shout out someone who's already taken their first steps towards creating content. Sometimes I will actually like shout out someone completely obscure. A little while back, I shouted out a channel with 80 subs that made like a Dimitri analysis because I thought it was a really well done video, and he only had like one video on his channel. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna shout out this guy and like give him a comment because I thought he was really good. Now, yeah, I think that's probably my answer to the whole thing. Like, I'm not really gonna host any like events, although I have contemplated maybe doing sort of like a meme competition. I recently got a green screen from some of my friends, and what I thought about doing was to film myself doing funny things in front of the green screen, put it out there on YouTube, and basically say, okay, make memes. The best ones I'll feature on my channel. That could be a good way to give some up-and-coming shitposters some exposition. So that might be something that I'll do. I also might do some more art competitions, because the last one I did was actually kind of interesting. I did it like many years ago. I did like a contest called Draw My Waifu. But I think most of the people who participated in that were already sort of established artists, but still, it's something that I could definitely consider. And as always, guys, if you are a content creator and you have some interesting content, definitely reach out to me for a pair-up. I'm not, like, I can't say that I'll do like a pair-up with anyone who reaches out to me. Like, the waiting queue is kind of long, but if you have a channel and you think your content has a unique niche to it, then by all means send me a mail, or, you know, try to get in touch with me via Discord. That's definitely something that I could do. So I hope that answers your question. Now, for your second one, to ensure that each one is as diverse as the next, that's not really something I have any control over. like, some Fire Emblem content creators are different from another, and some Fire Emblem content creators are similar to each other. I would say that me and Mecha's channels are kind of similar right now. We both do a lot of the same things. We both do Let's Plays, we both do Iron Man streams. He has his waifus, I have my spotlights, which are two sort of similar series, except that, like, the waifus go much more in depth about, like, the unit statistics. But, again, I don't really think it's my job to ensure that different channels are different. I think that's more up to each individual content creator. I do keep telling people that, you know, if you want to make it in the Fire Emblem community, you need to find a niche that you are good at, that people can't necessarily get anywhere else. Like, for example, take Bismix, right? All he did was record himself talking into the camera with funny jokes. But because he's so damn good at that, and I'm not going to say there's no other channels that does what Bismix does, but he, in my opinion, he does it the best in the Fire Emblem community. So he has his own gimmick. That is his thing, right? Phoenix Master is the guide guy. Like, he makes guides, really good guides. No one can really beat Phoenix Master when it comes to the guides, right? And I consider myself like the Let's Player that, like, plays a lot of Fire Emblem and does shitposts. That's sort of like my niche. And it's, you know, you just have to find what you're good at, and you got to do that. What you shouldn't do is do what everyone else does, which is upload part 1 of your normal mode Lyn playthrough, Fire Emblem 7. I swear to God, I am so tired of seeing that. We don't need any more Lyn mode playthroughs, guys. Like, seriously. I don't know why everyone does that as their first Let's Play. No one wants to see Lyn normal mode with a tutorial. Just find something, do a randomizer, do whatever. Try to find something that hasn't been done before, and you do that. If nothing else, you could always do, like, unit analysis videos. That's also fine. A lot of people do that, and each one is different. Like, for example, Daisy Soar, she's really good at that. You know, at least when she uploaded. I hope she comes back at some point. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling here, so I'm going to wrap up this question. I hope you got the answer you were looking for, and now we'll go on to the next one. So the next question comes in from Raptor980, and he asks, what are some of your lesser-known media headcanons, from video games to television shows to books? So, normally I like to take a lot of time to answer each and every one of these questions in, like, as detailed of a manner as I can. But for this one, I simply just have to be honest and say that I don't really do headcanons. That's not really something that I think about. Like, headcanon is basically, to those of you who don't know, it's like when you have, like, a theory, I guess, that you see as canon. Like, for example, like, I didn't think that actually happened, and that may have just been a dream, or, you know, that character actually loves that character, even though it's never said anywhere in the books, you know? I can see the appeal of headcanons, and, you know, some people can get very attached to their own headcanons, but for me, it's just not a thing that I do. I read the books. I mean, I read a lot of books, which I think I mentioned before. I read, like, maybe one book every week. I love fiction, I really do, but I don't sit around and, like, make up my own headcanon on the fiction, you know? That's just not something that I do. So I'm sorry for the boring answer. I'm not really able to say anything because I don't do headcanons. So, yeah, I can only apologize. Let's move on to the next question. So the next question comes from Nor Noble, and he asks, you said you were on the path to become a teacher at some point in your life. What made you change your mind? Since I am thinking of becoming a high school teacher, would you recommend it? So, I grew up with both of my parents being teachers. So, you know, over the dinner table, I would listen to them talk about school and their work a lot. And both my parents, I would consider them pretty good teachers. They always seemed to me like they were really good at their job. However, a common theme around the dinner table was their frustration. They would always complain about their work. And I think my parents, in big part, I think one of the reasons why they're still married is because they could hate their job together. I swear to God, they bonded so much over hating their school. And growing up and listening to my parents talk about their job and how much they loved their students, but how much they despised the system, it kind of left a mark on me. At first, I was like, you know what? I don't like the system, and before anyone asks, yes, the education system in Norway is considered quote-unquote good, and it is compared to other places like the States. Norway does have a pretty good education system, but I still think it's a system that's outdated and doesn't really reward creativity. Me, as a student, I struggled a lot in school. I felt like the courses didn't really appeal to me at all. I had very big difficulties actually getting interested in the classes. I had a couple of really good teachers through, like, very short periods that really managed to inspire me, but everyone else kind of just made me sleep honestly. So at first, because I realized that I inherited good speaking qualities from both my parents, like both my father and my mother, they're very charismatic people. So I inherited good charisma from them. I inherited a good voice from my mother, and I inherited good people skills from my mother. My mother is very good with people. So naturally, I thought, what would I be good at? And teacher just sprung to mind. And since I personally had struggled a lot in school, I figured, you know what? Why don't I become a teacher and make sure that students who are like me get someone that actually knows how to inspire them, and maybe I can, do something about this system of education. So that's why I started educating myself to become a teacher, because in my heart, I did believe that I would be a good teacher. However, at some point, I started working a little bit at various schools, like as a teacher assistant, to get some practical experience, and I very quickly learned that I love being with the students, and I have a good connection with the students. I really, really dislike the many of the teachers and also many of the people in charge of the system. Lots of frustrations, budget cuts, just really, really bad solutions, procrastination, terrible systems that just makes everything take a long time. And I just felt myself getting very frustrated with the entire system. Just was a really poorly maintained one. And also the fact that teachers in Norway, they basically can't get fired. They're so well protected that even the most horrible teachers, like I'm talking teachers that you just look at and go, why are they working here? Why are they here? They hate kids. Why are you here? Like you're the most unpleasant person in the world. Why are you working with this? Just can't get fired. It's impossible to fire them. And yeah, there's a nice security in that. You can't lose your job. That's pleasant and all, but it also means that some of the most awful teachers you will ever see just keep working at a school year after year after year, sucking the life out of their students' motivation. And there's something extremely depressing about that, just having to work alongside all these horrible teachers. That kind of just made me lose motivation. And I also experienced having some really bad principals. For some reason, I don't know if this is a thing everywhere in the world, but in Norway, like the most awful people get elected to become principals. The most horrible people. My father would always joke around with that they kept like the bad principals in a box, and every time one like ran its course, they just fished up another one from the box and just put them in charge, because they just got one awful principal after the other. And, after a while, just listening to my parents, how much they complained about their work, I was like, is this really how I want to live my life? Is this really what I want my career to be? Just being constantly frustrated over my work? Is it worth it? And maybe it would have been. I don't know. I think the feeling you get when you're a good teacher and you actually connect with your students, I think that is extremely fulfilling. I think that is a wonderful feeling to see your students succeed, knowing that you gave them something valuable. But then there's just everything else. And I'm not sure if that's the life I wanted to live. Seeing how my parents were so tired, so drained, so done at the end of the day, all they wanted to do was just sit in the couch and relax, because they exhausted themselves at school. I don't know. I don't think that's the kind of life I want to live. Now, I don't mean to like stomp on your dreams. If you really want to be a teacher, I think you should go for it. After all, I was never a fully fledged teacher. And when I asked my parents, do you ever regret becoming teachers? They're like, no, not in a million years. We love our job. So I say go for it. I'm sure it's a fulfilling life, but for me, well, one of the reasons why I stopped was because I saw an opportunity to do YouTube. This kind of goes into a different thing. I'm not going to go on too big of a tangent here, but one of the reasons why I started doing YouTube was I just wanted to do it for a year, just to take a break. I was like, you know what? I'll do YouTube for a year, and then I'll go back to work, because it sounds fun. And then, I never kind of went back. And that's just because I had the opportunity to do YouTube. You don't just simply just decide to do YouTube in one day. It's just, that's sort of something you can work towards and then maybe do one day. But I think you need to consider the following things if you want to become a teacher. Are you good with people? Are you good with kids? I mean, if you're going to be a high school teacher, the question should more be, are you good with teenagers? Are you empathetic? Are you good at dealing with people? I think a lot of people don't realize how important it is to have people skills as a teacher. My father always said, teacher is not something you can learn to be. It's something you're born as. And I think there's something to that. I think some people have the quality required to be teachers. Some people, they can educate themselves to hell and beyond. They'll never be good teachers because they don't have people skills. You need to have people skills. Your students are not going to respect you if you're not a pleasant person. Your students are not going to give a shit about you if you do not have a little bit of authority in you. Your students are not going to give a shit about what you say if you don't bond with them. So if you don't have those qualities in you, I don't think you should become a teacher. So just take a good hard look at yourself, reflect on your relationships, reflect on your friendships, and ask yourselves, are you a person that you think teenagers will look up to? If the answer is no, pick a different career. So the next question comes in from I Will Be Ninja, who asks, hello, I am interested in doing some YouTube videos for fun. What content would be fun to make? Also, what was your motivation to start YouTube and keep on going throughout these years? So that's two questions in one, so I'll answer the first one. So what content would be fun to make? That's very difficult for me to answer, because that's a subjective question, right? What content would be fun to make? Well, that's up to you. What content would you enjoy making? I'll tell you the same thing that I tell anyone who asks me for my opinion on whether or not they should become YouTube content creators. Are you a charismatic person? If yes, then you can do Let's Plays. Are you funny? Do you have a sense of humor? Do you have a good voice? Are you charismatic? You should be able to answer this. If not, ask your friends. An honest friend who gives you a proper answer. If you are not particularly charismatic, then you should learn how to edit, and you can make funny edited videos. But that also still requires you to have a sense of humor. So I think you need to ask yourself, what do you want to accomplish with your videos? Do you want to give people some background noise to listen to? Because that's like what most of my YouTube videos are, and I'm fine with that. People put them on to relax. Or do you want to make people laugh? Or do you want to inform people? Or do you want to have interesting theories that make people go, oh, I never thought about that. So I can't answer what would be fun to make, but I will say that editing is probably some of the most boring shit you can do. Like, seriously, editing is the worst. So the pleasure you derive out of getting that video up better be high. Because editing, I think, is probably one of the most boring things I can think of doing. I still do it because the pleasure I get out of getting a good video up and seeing people enjoy it outweighs that. But it is hours and hours and hours of tedious work, so I can't really say that it's fun, but it's worth it. So if you're just into making fun content, then just live stream, I guess. But at the end of the day, that also depends on whether or not you're a charismatic person. Are you a person you think people will enjoy listening to? Because I hate to be harsh sounding, but if you're boring and you don't have any charisma, then no one's going to watch your content. Like, I'm not going to like sugarcoat it, right? There's a lot of people who want to be content creators, and then they just sit there talking in a monotone voice, not doing anything, and it's just, no one wants to watch that. So you have to really just self-reflect and look at yourself. What kind of qualities do you have that would translate well into content? And if you're very charismatic, you can do unscripted videos, that way you talk. And if you're not entertaining, then learn how to edit. That's my advice. I hope I'm not too harsh sounding, but I think when answering these questions, I think you guys appreciate honest, blunt answers and not just me sugarcoating it. I'm tired of people saying, hey, just do what you want to do, follow your dreams, do whatever you feel is nice. No. If you suck at something, you shouldn't do it, right? You need to have some modicum of talent, or else people are not going to care. Your second question is, what was your motivation to start YouTube and keep on going throughout these years? So my motivation for starting YouTube was I wanted to show my friend Fire Emblem. Cyril, the guy who's in the channel URL, he was the one I made the video for. That's why my video is named Mangs and Cyril. This was a channel we were going to make together, and the concept behind this channel was that I was going to play games I liked, and he was going to play games he liked, and then we were going to upload them to this YouTube channel and watch each other's Let's Plays. We didn't even think about doing co-commentary, because back then, I mean, we had the internet for it, but it just wasn't something we thought about doing. So I started uploading Binding Blade, and I was like, and Cyril was watching those videos, commenting on them, saying like, haha, if you go back and you look at the first parts, you can still see his comments right there. You can see him commenting, saying like, haha, that was fun, blah, 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 now I want to try it. And then he was gonna get around to uploading Final Fantasy Let's Play that he did later on, and I started commenting on that. I think I took that down because he wanted to move that over to his channel. So yeah, that was my motivation for starting. I didn't expect anyone else to watch this shit. I just made it for one person. And then, when Cyril stopped watching my Let's Play, it was Mr. NTN who started commenting on it randomly out of nowhere, because I think he found it on Serenus Forest. I think I plugged it on Serenus Forest just to see if anyone had any interest in watching, but I didn't expect anyone to. So that was my motivation. I did it for one guy, and that's how it all started. And I think because I always kept my expectations low, I was never really disappointed. You know, I was like, oh, only 5 views on my video. Like, as long as one person watched them, I was fine with it. And my motivation for keep going is just that. I think at the end of the day, I just love recording myself playing and talking. I think it's enjoyable. It's almost like therapy in a way. Like, just talking and playing, having a monologue with whoever's watching, it's relaxing. Well, except for when I die and get frustrated, that is. But, you know, that's a different kind of feeling. So, I mean, I think a lot of people, when they make content, they set these arbitrary bars where it's like, at the end of the year, I hope to get 1,000 subs, and I want my videos to get at least 200 views, and if they don't do that, I'm gonna be very disappointed, and I'm gonna get demotivated, and I don't want to make content anymore. I never had that. I had aspirations and dreams. I mean, if you go look up my own Milestone videos, look at the video where I reach 100 subs. I'm so happy. I'm like, oh my god, I reached 100 subs. Like, and that was like after, Jesus, how long did it take me to reach 100 subs? At least 6 months. Like, I was stuck at 38 subscribers for at least 3 or 4 months. I remember it. I remember logging onto YouTube, uploading a new video, and seeing the sub count at 38. But at the end of the day, that never stopped me, because I never made these videos for an audience. I made them because I wanted to make them. And if just one person watched them, that was okay with me. And I think, again, if you want to get into YouTube, expect a slow climb. Okay, very few channels blow up overnight. Some channels do. Some channels manage to get a viral video out there and they explode overnight. Which by the way, I don't think that's a good and healthy thing at all. I think most people who explode overnight, they tend to get themselves into horrible situations. I think a slow and steady growth of your channel is the best way to go about it. And just manage your expectations. And remember, every time you get a sub, that's valuable. Every time, that's one person watching your videos, right? And yeah, I think a lot of us get a little spoiled with the constant social media all around us, you know, and you see all these bigger channels that get like millions of views on their videos. That's not you. Keep your expectations small, work yourself upwards. That's how you do it. So the next question comes in from Anonymous, who asks, wine, beer, or spirits? So I was never really a beer guy. I was always told beer was going to taste better when I got older. Never really happened for me. I just never acquired the taste for it. I can like enjoy one beer if it's outside, served in a chilled glass, and it's warm, and I'm in good company. I can really enjoy a beer under those circumstances. But I always figured that is attributed more to the whole setting and the feeling of the beer rather than the taste. I was never just a big fan of the taste. It's like bitter and just maybe like one beer. Anything more than that, I just get tired of the taste immediately. Personally, I love wine. I'm very peculiar though. I'm kind of similar to my mother in this way. I only drink dry white wine. That is like the one wine that I can drink. Maybe a little bit of red wine to the food, if it's like a steak or something, but even that I get really tired of really quickly. Sweet wine gives me a headache. I don't know why, it just does. So for me, it's like super dry white wine. That is what I prefer to drink. And I like to have ice cubes in my wine. People get really upset over that. They're like, oh my god, how can you have ice cubes? I don't know, I like my wine being very chilly. I like the little sounds that it makes when you swirl it around, like ding, 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 ding. It just makes me happy. I like the sensation of the ice cubes against my mouth when I drink it. I really enjoy having ice in my wine, and I don't understand why people get so incredibly triggered by it. People are like, oh, you're ruining the taste. Well, okay, I don't care. I was never a big fan of the taste anyway. Like, I think one of the reasons why I like dry white wine is because it has a very neutral taste. I don't know. I was just never a big alcohol person. I don't usually drink spirits, but there are some exceptions. Like, if I really want to get drunk, I prefer spirits, because spirits gets you drunk really, really fast. Me and Pansagraf, the guy who I stream Wargroove and Advanced Wars with occasionally, we have a drink where we mix Monster and vodka. It's terrible for you. Like, you shouldn't drink this often, but I actually, like, think it tastes great. I don't know what it is. It's something about the combination of Monster and vodka that just, like, it really gives you a kick and it really gets you drunk fast. So whenever when we're doing, like, drunk streams, we tend to drink that. So yeah, that's kind of like my relationship with alcohol. I will say though, I drink very, very rarely. Like I don't usually drink a lot. I used to drink a lot before when I streamed, but I kind of lost the taste for it, honestly. Like, drunken streams are fun, they are cute, but personally for me, I just got really worried that I would say something dumb or say something that could, like, put my career in danger, because you tend to say dumb things when you're drunk, right? Or do something embarrassing or something like that. So I kind of cut down on the drunk streams. And even now, like, if I do drink when I stream, I tend to just get tipsy, not, like, completely smashed. I think I had one New Year stream with Louise where we streamed Heroes, and I think I got so drunk that I ended up, like, puking during the stream. That was kind of bad. I think that was the last time I was like, okay, no more of this insanity. So the next question comes in from Rinku, and this is a very long one. Hi Mangs, I hope you're doing well. I have been a long time watcher and lurker, for the most part, but I love your content, and I've been watching you for a long time, probably starting around the Fire Emblem 4 substitute runs. As I watched you myself and gotten older, I've been considering doing content creation as well, probably a side thing outside of work. What equipment would you recommend for someone new to content creation, and what would you look out for their content if it's also content like Let's Plays? I'm sure others have these questions as well, so if you want to name a few pieces of equipment varying from different budget ranges, I'm sure it'd help someone. Thank you for all you do, Mangs. Well, thank you for the nice message. What would I recommend of starting equipment? Well, I mean, you don't really need that much for a Let's Play. Like, just get OBS, get a headset. Honestly, like, I recorded with a headset for years. You do not need a microphone like the one I have above me right now. A headset mic is more than good enough to get you started. And then, yeah, just use OBS and you're pretty much set. My advice to you when you start off making content is don't blow a lot of money on expensive equipment right away. Just don't. I would much rather you try it out and see if you're actually good at it, or see if you like it before you go and spend a whole bunch of money. Like, sure, having a good microphone around never hurts, but if you're not going to use it for anything, it's just wasted money, right? So I would probably recommend like a Steel Racer headset. It won't cost you that much, maybe vary a little bit from country to country, and like use one with a built-in headset microphone, and that is honestly all you need to get started. Now, as far as what you should look for in terms of equipment, well, I can just tell you what I have. I have a Blue Yeti. I will say that the Blue Yeti is a little overrated. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to everyone, but I think it's good for what it costs. It's around $100. You need a shock holder, which will easily cost you another $50. The shock holder is this little thing that it's mounted to the table, and this little thing that prevents it from picking up vibrations, because the Yeti is very sensitive to vibrations. If you don't have one of these, you do this. If your Yeti is standing on the desk, it's gonna pick up those vibrations and make a lot of noise, and it's gonna be very hard while you're recording, especially if you use your keyboard a lot. So, honestly, the Blue Yeti is good for what it does. If you're just streaming or doing Let's Plays, then it really fits the bar. However, if you're actually like looking to get into voice acting, you should not use a USB microphone at all. You should use a microphone that is actually connected to your sound card. I'm not really an expert on this. I would ask someone else that does voice acting for advice on like good proper microphones. My advice would just go speak to Chaz Aria LLC, because he is a sound engineer and he can absolutely recommend microphones to you. So hit him up on Twitter and just ask him for good microphone recommendations. He is honestly the guy that I would go to with any such questions. For me, I will say that, you know, the Blue Yeti it has served me well for many years. I am probably looking into changing it up sometime soon, but I think I've been using it for 3 years and I'm very happy with it. I've had to replace it like once because the old one's sound quality started to dip a little bit, but this one has remained consistent for many years. It's not perfect, but it works for what I do. But yeah, just don't blow a lot of money on equipment. Just do make sure though that if you're making a Let's Play, I mean, this is like the 3 pillars of content that I say for Let's Plays, right? Record at least in 30 FPS. Try 60 if your computer can handle it. I think there's a big difference between 60 and 30 FPS. But even for older Fire Emblem games, there is a big difference. I think that things just look nicer when it's in 60 FPS, but 30 is good enough. Make sure that your sound quality is good, and please balance your audio and in-game music, because one of the most common mistakes I see when people make content is that they fail to balance their audio levels. So you can either not hear what they're saying, or they are way too loud and you can't hear the in-game. You generally want your voice to be in the center and focus, with the audio being there and present, but not overpowering your own voice. So this is very important. But yeah, just ensure that you have good FPS. Ensure that you have a good headset is more than good enough. Just make sure your voice is clean. And yeah, make sure that your video quality is alright, and you should be good. And don't blow a whole lot of money. Now, once you get into it, if you find that you like it and you find that you have a talent for it and people start watching your content, then you can consider investing a little bit of money into the equipment. But to start off with, start slow. So the next question comes in from Anthony Sweat, and he asks, tips on starting a channel? I hope to get one started soon. You, Mecha, and Chaz have inspired me to feel like I can do it. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. So this is kind of similar to a previous question that I answered, brought up this a lot before in this Patreon Q&A, so if I repeat myself a little bit, I do apologize. So a question like this is very hard to answer because it's very, like, general. You know, it's hard to just give general tips. I can certainly try, but it would be a lot better if you sent me a link, if you made a video, like, for example, just upload a test video. I can listen to your voice, I can see your audio and video quality, and I could give you a lot more, like, specific feedback on what you need to work on. I'm happy to review channels. I keep it, like, as one of my Patreon rewards, actually, in case you don't know. So if you want me to actually give you a review and tell everyone what I think about your channel, or just you, I'm happy to do so. But really, it comes down to the kind of person you are, right? The sad reality is, if you have talent, it's going to be a lot easier for you than if you don't. Some people are not charismatic, some people aren't funny, they're very monotone. It's hard to get behind them as content creators, right? You need a bit of personal charm to make it, and you gotta play to your strengths. You can either, for example, if you have like an amazing voice, you should definitely do some sort of commentary. If you're very good at editing and you have an eye for details, you should do intensive editing videos. If you have a great sense of humor, or if you know a lot about something, like, for example, take Don151. His video quality isn't great. I mean, his commentary is fantastic, but his video quality isn't that great. But he just knows a lot about Fire Emblem, right? That is his specific niche. He does insane strategies. He knows how to, like, really exploit and play a game using every little bit of resources that he can come across, right? And that gives him a niche. That gives him a very specific niche. He's not the only one in the community who does the things that he does, but I would say Donlan is among the best of them, right? So I think that you just gotta play to your strengths. Find out what it is that you are good at in terms of Fire Emblem. If you're just a general guy who wants to make general content, there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It kind of depends on the expectations that you've set for yourself. As I've said previously in this video, when I started making content, my goal was just to entertain one friend. That was all the aspirations I had. I didn't expect anyone else actually starting to watch my videos. It didn't really matter to me. Like, I just wanted my friend to watch me play Fire Emblem. So if your goal is just to have some fun and upload content, then just do whatever you want. But if you actually have dreams of becoming a big YouTuber, you gotta have a vision. You gotta have some focus. You gotta know where you're going, right? Take whatever you're good at and focus on that lane, and make a name for yourself as that guy. That is the advice that I have for you. But again, it's a little vague, but it's a difficult question to answer, because I don't know anything about you. I don't know what you're like. I don't know what you're good at, and I don't know what you want. But yeah, don't let it intimidate you. Upload your first video, send it to me, and I'll tell you what I think. So the next question comes in from Anonymous, who says, if Fire Emblem 4 is to be the next remake, how would you feel about Tree Houses style supports to give more to the characters and relationships? Jealousy could play a fun part in that, Tree Houses style interactions in the castles. Raucus is saying, why don't you go talk to Sylvia since you seem to like her so much? So, with a remake, I think it's completely fine to add new elements to the gameplay. If we take a look at Echoes and what it added to Gaiden, it took the little sequences where you walk around on the map and it expanded them a little bit. they're still essentially the same thing, but there's more to do. You can click on the characters, you can talk to them. You couldn't do that in Gaiden. Or there were some characters you could talk to in Gaiden, but once you talk to them once, there wasn't really all that much more to say. Whereas in Echoes, there's new conversations. Whenever you enter a dungeon, you'll see like some of your party members out there. I think adding onto already existing mechanics, fleshing them out, that's a good thing. And I could definitely see with Fire Emblem 4 getting a remake that they would actually allow you to like run around in the castles. I actually wouldn't mind that at all. I wouldn't want them to go full Academy the way they did in Tree Houses, because it could really be like, can you guys imagine like Sigurd running around like Byleth, picking up items in the castle and like going over to Rockes's and goes like, what are you doing here? Like, it could easily get a little silly to me and a little bit too similar to Tree Houses. If Fire Emblem 4 gets remade, I still want it to feel like Fire Emblem 4. I just want it to have better graphics. Now, if they want to add a little mini sequence where Sigurd walks around in the castle, talk to the blacksmith, talk to the vendor, talk to the pawn shop, I'm okay with that, but I don't want them to fundamentally transform Fire Emblem 4 into something more similar to Tree Houses than Fire Emblem 4. I don't want Sigurd to run around picking up items, petting cats, and giving roses to Rockes's to increase their support affinity. That isn't Fire Emblem 4 to me. That's not what I want in my Fire Emblem 4. But something extra? Sure. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Now, as for traditional style supports, I do want to see them in Fire Emblem 4. I do think that traditional CBA supports would be a thing. The question then becomes, how do you mix that with the marriage system? Do you just make it so that whenever a character reaches a support, that's when they have their children? Some people might not like that, because it would be a lot harder to pair characters up, because, you know, in FE4, all you need to do is put units next to each other for 40 turns, and usually they'll fall in love. If you lock it behind 3 supports, and maybe if you take it a step further and you do C, B, A, and S supports, that might be a big hassle to some people, and some people might not like that. But the way I see it, if you're going to implement traditional Fire Emblem supports into Fire Emblem 4, you kind of have to do it that way, because if the marriage system is in addition to that, that could cause some trouble. That could cause, like, a lot of trouble, I think. And I think a lot of people wouldn't like that. Now, I actually think that adding jealousy into supports would be fun. But the realist in me looks at that and thinks, no, that's way too much work. Can you imagine how much extra content they would have to make in order to, like, placate a small niche that is jealousy? Like, let's be real. Who really thinks jealousy was a good mechanic? It was a terrible mechanic, okay? I tried to set up jealousy formations with Mecha in my ranked run. I hated every second of it. It was awful, okay? I don't even, like, was it even, like, a legit feature? Some people speculate that it might have been a bug, that it, like, intentionally turned into something else, because the way it's programmed into the game is completely obscure, and it's, like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of jealousy, honestly, but would I like it if you use, like, a jealousy strat to get, like, a support with Rockes's, and you, like, and Sylvia steals love points away from her? Would it be hilarious if the next time you talk to Rockes's, she goes like, I don't want to talk to you? Yeah, no, it would be hilarious. I would love that, but I just look at that and I think, wow, that's way too much work to put into the game. That's going to require way too many resources. Now, would I like it if they put jealousy in, but just instead of, like, making it like a huge focal point, they would just go like, okay, if there is a jealousy strat going on, Rockes's, like, says a line like, I guess you like her then. That would be a really cool, and I like, as long as it doesn't require a lot of development resources to put into the game, I'm fine with it being there. I think that it would actually be really funny even, and honestly, like a little visual cue maybe that tells you that a jealousy formation is taking place, and just some sort of visual aid to help you a little bit, I think would be cool, because I like the principle of jealousy. I like the principle that you can put a girl next to another girl to build love points faster because girls are jealous. Like, you know, it's cute, right? But at the same time, I didn't like the way it was implemented in FE4. It was way too obscure, way too vague, and honestly, like, it terrified me, because whenever I clumped my units together, I'd be like, holy shit, am I, like, accidentally doing a jealousy strat now? Am I just gonna fuck up my pairings? So, I don't know, there's so many things to talk about with a potential Fire Emblem 4 remake that it's probably worth an entire video just on the subject, because there is just so much to discuss, right? How many of the original mechanics do we keep in Fire Emblem 4? How many mechanics do we scrap? Do we implement indoor battles? Like, do we have some maps that take place inside the castles? Do we split the maps up into smaller maps? Do we retain all the normal pairings? Do we add new characters? Like, imagine if you just add one extra character to Fire Emblem 4, suddenly you change up the entire formula. Because if it's a female character, they'll probably need children characters, which completely change the second generation. There's just like... This is kind of one of the reasons why I think we'll never get a Fire Emblem 4 remake. I think that they consider it too much of a headache. I hate to be so pessimistic on the subject, but I actually think that when the developers look at Fire Emblem 4, they scratch their heads and they go, oh god, this is a mess, isn't it? Oh, there's incests and there's like child hunt. How are we gonna do this? And they're just gonna let's just not remake Fire Emblem 4. I hate to say it, but I don't think they'll ever do it. But if they do, yes. Traditional supports, Sigurd running around on the castle, jealousy strats, I'm all for it. So the next question comes in from Anonymous, who asks, top 20 all-time units tier lists. Will you make one? Top 100 when 100k subs? Wow, a top 100 units. That sounds like a video that would be like 5 hours long. How do you even do that? Like 100 unit, like Jesus Christ, that would take forever to make. I'm not really a big fan of tier lists, I'm gonna be completely honest. I've done a couple, like, ironically. I've done a waifu tier list for my 69k subscriber special. But as far as all these tier lists go, I don't really enjoy either watching or making them. The exception is maybe I've done a couple with Mecha. I think that tier lists are a lot of fun if you're 2 people, because then you can discuss back and forth. But for me, I just don't think it's a lot of fun to do like objective tier lists. I can do subjective tier lists. Like I've been contemplating doing like a top like tier list, like bust size, where I like range the Fire Emblem girls by cup size, because occasionally you'll see this meme posted where people like rank the girls based on their cup size. Only that it's obvious that whoever made these lists have never, like, seen a bra in their life, because they're completely off their mark in terms of the cup sizes. I think a guy, like, put, like, Leanne at, like, a D cup. I'm like do you even know how boobs work? So I might do one of those, or, like, some other subjective ones where it's just, like, my opinions. But because, truth be told, for a lot of the Fire Emblem games, I don't feel like I actually know enough to actually make a proper objective tier list. Maybe I could do it with a Binding Blade. But any other game, I would actually have to do some research, because it's very tough to rank units on a tier list. There's a lot of room for mistakes there, and a lot of like arguments for and against whatever choice you make. So I don't think that's something that I plan on doing. For 100k, my 100k special is going to be something quite more spectacular than a tier list. Not to like throw shit at people doing tier lists, like Mecha's tier lists are actually pretty good, but if I, for my 100,000 subscriber special, did a tier list, I think that would let some people down. So, nah, I don't think that's what we're gonna be doing. No, I have something in mind for my 100k special, and it's gonna be something quite different. Well, we'll see. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I know what I want to do. So yeah, that's my answer. So the next question comes in from another Anonymous. Guys, you gotta leave your signature with your questions, or else I won't know who you are. And he or she asks, is Dimitri the top lord and or the unit in the franchise now? He's a broken unit among broken units. He's a monster even with missing a couple of chapters of training. So Dimitri is certainly a step above everyone else in Tree Houses. I think you could probably make the argument for him being the best playable unit in Tree Houses. It's kind of hard because how do you really compare Dimitri to Edelgard and Claude, considering they're never on the same team unless you play Cindered Shadows? Some people, I think, could maybe make the argument that Edelgard has some more utility for, like, LTC strats with her Raging Storm, and Claude does have, like, his insanely powerful bow Phaelot, which he can really put to great use on his Wyvern. I mean, Dimitri could be a flyer too, of course, there's nothing stopping him, but I think Claude kind of goes into role more easily since he just gets his class immediately after the time skip. Whereas Dimitri, you can't even tutor, which actually, like, takes away some flexibility for him and can actually make him a little bit tricky. If you have, like, a very specific build and plan in store for him, you actually have to really take care to give it to him before the time skip, because, of course, he does have that emo period where he doesn't want to talk to you. As for him being, like, the most broken unit in the franchise, not by a freaking long shot. Like, there are 2 units that spring to mind that really, like, blow Dimitri out of the water. The first is Sigurd from Fire Emblem 4. Sigurd will probably not be knocked off that pedestal anytime soon, I think. compared to the power of the units he's facing, Sigurd just breezes through the first generation. Like, he could solo it so incredibly easily. Like honestly, if you haven't played FE4 and you haven't like used Sigurd, you don't appreciate just how strong he is. The second character that springs to mind is Gaiden Alm. Not Echo's Alm. Echo's Alm is pretty good, but Gaiden Alm is busted on a completely different level. Gaiden Alm is just so insane. Like, I'm playing Gaiden Abridged. I'm playing Gaiden 4, Gaiden Abridged, and every time I'm over on Alm's side, it is just absolutely ludicrous how much stronger he is compared to everyone else on his team. And I think one of the reasons why Gaiden Alm is so much more powerful than Echo's Alm is because Echo's Alm has good growth rates, but everyone else got their growth rates bumped up too. In Gaiden, everyone's growth rates are ass. Like, everyone has like around 10 to 15% in most growth rates. Whereas Alm actually has like the growth rates of a standard Fire Emblem character by today's standards. So he actually snowballs a lot harder compared to everyone else. And of course, in Gaiden, the enemies are also fairly weak to compensate for the fact that unit growths are so high, or so low, I mean. So you give levels to Alm, he just he snowballs so incredibly hard, and I mean, one-rounding things in Gaiden is really hard. Like, it's really tough, because enemies are very tough, and you do very little damage in Gaiden. You're not really supposed to one-round things. Like, your units have to slowly chip enemies down. Gaiden Alm actually, like, one-rounds quite easily, too, and it just is so broken to send him into a huge pack of enemies and just watch him obliterate everything. So yeah, no, Dimitri is definitely not the strongest unit in the franchise, not by a long shot. But I would probably make the argument that he's the best character in Treehouses. So the next question comes in from Eric Bott, and he asks, any chances of you playing or streaming Valkyria Chronicles? Also, have you tried it, since you mentioned you have it? So Valkyria Chronicles is like one of those games that people keep asking me to play. That and like Final Fantasy. But unlike Final Fantasy, who I've said time and time again that I'm not interested in the franchise. Like, I've never been able to get into a Final Fantasy game. And no, not even Final Fantasy Tactics. So just stop asking. It's not going to happen. Valkyria Chronicles is a game that I definitely could see myself playing one day. Someone gifted it to me on Steam. And I just installed it and like looked at it. I gotta be completely honest, I wasn't spectacularly impressed by like the first 5 minutes of gameplay. Like, I thought it looked kind of weird. And like, I wasn't like, the game didn't go like, okay, this is a game I'd like to play. I was more like, maybe, I know you can't judge a game based on the first 5 minutes of gameplay, but, you know, first impressions are kind of important too. So, I'm not gonna say that a Valkyria Chronicles stream is never gonna happen. I will say it's probably very unlikely at the moment, because there's just so many things I want to do on the channel and so little time. Like, you know, like the list of games that I would like to play at some point is pretty extensive. I mean, Fire Emblem is the main focus on my channel, but I've set aside my Tuesdays now. Tuesday's gonna be like Fire Emblem streams, right? No, sorry, non-Fire Emblem streams. So, again, I really cannot make any promises, because I don't want to let people down, right? I can only do so much. I'm just one guy with a YouTube channel. However, I think at some point I'm probably just going to have to do a Valkyria Chronicles stream just to try it out. I know Master Annex keeps asking me to play it, and Master Annex is a guy who helps me out a lot behind the scenes. So maybe to you know, give something back to him, maybe I'll set aside a Tuesday just to try out Valkyria Chronicles. If I do, however, I would like do it under the pretenses that don't expect me to do like this every Tuesday. But I think I could definitely maybe like set aside an evening to stream it, try it, just so the people who want to see me play it actually gets their wish. Because, you know, I do want to do things that make you guys happy. It's just that I don't want to commit my time to something that I don't think people will be that interested in watching. That being said, like when I started Zelda, I wasn't sure if that was something people would want to watch, and that turned out to be a huge success. So, you know, maybe I should take some more chances and try out some new things. I could end up loving it. So the next question comes in from Moosey Moose, who asks, thoughts on playing the Fire Emblem Treehouses Randomizer? I got my own game randomized, and it's fun, lol. So yeah, I have been paying a little bit of attention to Gast's randomized Let's Play. It's quite hilarious. Like, the randomizer is really well done. It doesn't just randomize playable characters, but it also, like, randomizes everyone in the game. So you can end up with, like, insanity, like seeing Nemesis at the monastery and stuff like that, which is a lot of fun. When I first saw Gast starting his randomized Let's Play, part of me was like, oh man, I want to get into that too. That looks really fun. But then I was like, you know what? I think it's a little disrespectful. By no means does Gast have like exclusive rights to do a randomized Let's Play, but I feel like it would be a bit tacky to, you know, just jump into the spotlight along with him and it goes like, hey, I'm also doing a randomized Let's Play, you know, at the same time. I felt like that would be a little disrespectful. Not that he owns it or anything, but he did have a lot of involvement in the beta testing and stuff like that. So I do believe he is, yeah, at the time of making this video, he finished his Let's Play, and he hasn't uploaded anything for a week, so he is done now. I don't know if he's planning on doing a new one. I haven't really talked to him a lot recently, so maybe if he's done, maybe I could look into doing a randomized Let's Play of my own. The thing is, I kind of want to, like, finish the church route, and I don't think a randomizer would be a good way to do that. I think, like, I still have the eventual church route Let's Play coming up. And aside from that, I don't really want to do yet another Let's Play of Tree Houses on top of that. Tree Houses is still pretty popular, and I still have some spotlights left to make of the Tree Houses characters, along with 2 big videos coming out. But aside from that, I feel like the channel needs a little bit of a longer break from Tree Houses, especially if I'm planning on doing the church route Let's Play. So how would a randomized Let's Play fit in there? I don't know, I could do like a short one just for fun, where I just do like maybe the first 3 maps or something like that, instead of like committing to a whole one, because at the end of the day, I don't think my subscriber base will be very happy with like another 50-part Let's Play of Tree Houses. Based on what I saw with the comments from the last one of when I did Golden Deer, was people were like, okay, we've enjoyed Tree Houses, but now we're ready for something new. Like, please do go back to Fire Emblem 4 or whatnot. So, you know, at the end of the day, I had to like gauge what my audience wants, and committing to a Let's Play, starting a brand new Let's Play, is a big commitment for me, you know, especially Tree Houses. That's such a long one. Though I will say that with a randomizer, I probably wouldn't be paying that much attention to the story, and maybe I'll like cut away the monastery, so that would maybe result in a shorter Let's Play. So never say never. I will say, I'm not very good at modding my Switch, so if you are watching, if there's someone out there watching who you're very good at randomizing and you know how to set it up for me, definitely contact me. Either put a comment in the video below or send me a DM on Discord, or, you know, if you don't use Discord, you can contact me at the Gmail, mangsandzero@gmail.com. If you know how to set up a randomizer for me, definitely reach out. I would definitely love to talk to you, because I don't actually have like someone who's really good at modding in my community. I have multiple people that I talk to that help me out with hacking the various Fire Emblem games, but I don't really like have a Switch guy yet. So if you want to be my Switch guy, that sounds a bit weird, you can definitely contact me. And, you know, if I get someone to set up a randomized Tree Houses Let's Play for me, I'm definitely gonna check it out. I can't promise that I would like commit to a full-fledged Let's Play, but I would definitely give it a look at the very least. So the next question comes in from another anonymous who asks, have you ever thought about putting out some Pathfinder style content on your channel? The thought of a campaign with you and some other Faytubers playing a Fire Emblem style campaign based on their favorite Fire Emblem character sounds like an absolute blast to me. So I have been wanting to put out some Pathfinder content, but the problem is Pathfinder doesn't really translate well over to a video format. Pathfinder is just like Dungeons & Dragons, is a slow process. It's all about the social interactions around the table. Usually a session can last anywhere between 5 to 6 to even 7, 8 hours. And a lot of it is just like shit talking, honestly. Like, to give you an example of how a session usually goes for me, right? Guests will arrive at around 5 in the afternoon, and or 4 to 5 in the afternoon. They'll take an hour to get settled in, like putting out their character sheets, and some of them will like pack out some food and stuff like that, and we'll just sit and talk. And then maybe we start after an hour or two, and then it's like, it will probably take about 2 to 3 hours before they ever get into their first encounter of the day. And an encounter can take anywhere between 1 to 2 hours, because it's just so much. You gotta like move around and plan your turns and stuff like that. And then we want to take a break, eat some pizza, like maybe someone will go out and grab a smoke, and it's kind of just like, it just takes a long time. And I've tried, like, I've actually had ideas of like filming encounters before, but it's just, it would just require a lot of editing on my part. Like, I do actually kind of want to film an encounter against like the final boss of the campaign, like just filming the battle mat, I mean the miniatures moving around, and just like editing it like with music and post commentary. I think that could be interesting for sure, but it's a lot of work because you have to cut out maybe like 95% of the downtime. It just, as I said, Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons, it's about being around the table. Even just filming it, like I've tried watching some online Pathfinder sessions myself, and I just zone out. I just don't think it's a lot of fun. Like, it's not fun to watch other people play Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons. You have to be there. You have to be part of the immersion. You have to be part of the table. It's about an experience that you have with other people. That is the beauty of role-playing games. Now, am I gonna say that it would be boring to like film something and upload it? I'm sure some people would enjoy it, but I think it's something that a lot of people ask for, and then when they get it, they realize it's not that fun. Now, a online session with Fire Emblem YouTubers, I could definitely see that being a lot of fun. I would definitely, like, I know that, like, I would have to get Chas on that, because I think he'd be hilarious. I know he plays Dungeons & Dragons, he's a DM, just like me. So I would definitely love to get, like, Chas, maybe Gast, maybe Goose. Rin would be fun to have on there. I definitely want to have Mecha there. And just have those guys, like, do a short campaign with me as the DM. Now, online Dungeons & Dragons / Pathfinder is a little bit, like, tedious because, like, I can't help people physically with making a character. I have to, like, guide them through the process via voice chat. So it's going to take a long time for them to generate their characters. It also depends on whether or not I'm the one doing the dice rolling, or if I'm going to let each of them individually roll their own dice. They would need dice first and foremost, and also I think that a part of the experience is to watch the dice rolls themselves. So I would have them do a camera setup where they could film their rolls, because I think that's important. I don't think it's as fun, for example, if Chas rolls a die that he just tells the results. I think it's much more fun if the audience can see what he rolls. So how would we set that up? Like, Mecha has his hand cam, so I guess Mecha would be set, because he could just, like, film his hands rolling the die. But everyone else would, like, need to, like, do this, and, like, all the time whenever they roll, which may not be as great. I don't know, it sounds clunky to me. And also, you know, there's just 6 people in the same voice chat, everyone talking over each other, you know, and that could get chaotic pretty fast. And I know there's some tools you can use to help you out. Like, there's like a program that's made specifically for online sessions where you can, like, show your players the maps and stuff like that. I would have to get into that. I'm not gonna say it's never gonna happen. I definitely would like to. It sounds like a lot of work, but who knows, maybe for, like, a special or something. That'd be fun to do. Now, what I could see myself doing for sure is if we ever have a meetup again where all the Fire Emblem YouTubers come together, doing, like, a one-shot session where we play around the table. That sounds absolutely hilarious. I would love to do that. The question is then, you know, are we going to spend an entire evening doing that when we could be going out getting drunk? You know, it might be a hard thing to sell to some of them, especially if they haven't played role-playing games before. But I would definitely, like, try to convince everyone to participate, because that does sound really fun. So the next question comes in from another anonymous. Wow, that anonymous guy, he sure is asking a lot of questions. And he or she asks, out of all the ROMhacks that you played so far, which one do you think is the best one? Well, it used to be Staff of Ages, until Staff of Ages stopped getting developed. And now it is by far actually the hack that I'm playing right now on my channel, Souls of the Forests. It is, like, leaps and bounds ahead of any other hack that I've played. I definitely recommend you follow the Let's Play, because I'm really, really enjoying making it. And of course, it's not finished yet. It only has story for, like, the first 8 chapters, but and I think in total, it has like 16 chapters plus 3 guidance. I don't know if it's, like, completely finished or not, but I hope it gets finished one day, because the ingenuity that goes into the map design of that hack, like, the map design is just so stellar, from the way the enemies are placed to where they come at you. It's like every little enemy placement is thought out in that map. Every single enemy is placed with the intention of giving you a challenge. Like, even to where the reinforcements show up and how they end up is carefully planned out. Like, if an enemy arrives as a reinforcement on turn 3, that enemy is designed to be somewhere important over the next 2 or 3 turns, to the point where it's going to cause some trouble for you. It's really remarkable. The amount of playtesting that must have gone into those maps blows my mind. Really. Like, any hack that wants to make good map design should play Souls of the Forest and take a few notes out of the handbook of Skrysa, because that is, like, probably some of the best design gameplay I have ever witnessed in a hack. The story is, you know, it's okay. Like, it's basic at the moment. I can't really say much about it. I've reached the end of it now at the time of recording it, and yeah, it's quite obvious Skrysa didn't really, like, focus hard on it. Like, it works. Like, it's not bad at all, but like, it's not why you should play Souls of the Forest. It's because of the gameplay. I also really like how it completely goes away from the traditional Fire Emblem rules. Like, it almost feels like playing a different game. It's still Fire Emblem, but it's so different in how it plays out, because, like, it's a lot more akin to the Arcanea games, where, like, you can't really dodge tank and damage is very high. But at the same time, it's like I don't know, it just, I don't know what to say. Like, it's like a puzzle. It gives me Lunatic Conquest vibes, where it's like every chapter requires you to think. You can't just charge blindly in. And I know that's what I do a lot, so you'd think I'd love that. I mean, I had fun with Pride and Justice, and that was definitely the definition of like a power trip, like where you just charge in. But and I enjoy that from time to time, I really do. But man, the way Souls of the Forest makes me think through every move that I make, it really is a spectacular experience. And Skrysa definitely one of the more talented hackers I've seen in the community so far. So the next question comes in from Anonymous, who asks, what are your thoughts on college? I graduated a year ago and I regret it even though I have a good job. Yes, college. That is quite the topic, and I got some strong opinions on college. So I think that if you have a specific dream in mind that requires a college degree, there is absolutely nothing wrong with going to college. Let's say you want to become a doctor. Like, you're probably going to have to go through college at some point, depending on what kind of degree you're taking. So you're not really going to be able to get around that, right? However, what I see a lot of people do these days, and I don't really understand it, is they just go to college because they think it's the smart thing to do. They don't really have a plan. They don't really have a vision. They just go like, well, yeah, I guess I got to go to college. I mean, like, that's the smart thing to do, right? And I think in a lot of parents are to blame for this. Me, myself, I didn't go to college. I was going to become a teacher, so I'd have to go through there at some point. But I kind of stopped before I put myself in debt. I was able to pay back most of my student loans before, you know, I even went into the courses. So I didn't really, like, put myself in massive amounts of debts like so many other people are doing. And I honestly, like, I love my mom, but she gave me horrible advice, and I've told her this many times. So my mom was constantly beating it into my head from I was very young, that you have to get an education. If you want to live a good life, you have to get an education. And once I was done with high school, my mom was just like, yeah, of course you're going to college. Of course my son is going to college. And I'm like, or in Norway we go to university, which is, you know, same but different. And I was like told my mom, like, why should I put myself in debt when I'm not even sure if this is what I want to do with my life? And she's like, yeah, but just go study something, you know, just go study something. You can't not study. You're my son. Like, you in this family, we have high education. Of course, you want to live a good life. It's a smart thing to do. And I just remember going like, do you want me to put myself in massive amounts of debt when I don't even know what I want to do with my life? Like, yeah, sure, I think I want to be a teacher, but I'm not sure. Like, isn't it horrible to go into these studies and, like, put myself in massive amounts of debts when I don't even know if this is what I want to do with my life? And for both my parents, it was, like, just a natural thing that you go to college if you want to live a good life. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. There are a lot of jobs you can pursue that do not require college education. And honestly, like, you gotta make a calculated, like, you gotta math this out. Yeah, I know, very rich, like, Mang's telling you to do math, but, like, consider the amount of debt that you're placing yourself in, and consider how many years extra you would have to work to pay off this debt, right? And is it really worth it? Like, if you spend 10 years paying off your student loan, you, like, imagine if you didn't have to pay back that debt and you could just go straight into work and just start earning money. Imagine how much extra money and extra time you would save just based on that. Yeah, sure, there are some degrees that will get you a pretty hefty payday that will probably pay itself in. But, like, I have a friend, right? And he has been studying for at least 10 years now, and he's still not done. He just takes degree after degree after degree. And he is, like, educating himself for a pretty highly paid job. But you gotta ask, like, if you've spent 10, 12, 15 years studying, and that is a thing that happens in Norway a lot. We call them the eternal students. They're never done. Like, at some point, it's got to be impossible for him to, like, work off all that debt. Like, he's going to be paying college debt loans until he's, like, 50. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I see a lot of people do this. Like, they don't think. They don't think at all. With the advent of the internet, there's so many new jobs out there, and there's so much you can self-teach yourself. There's so many courses you can take online, and there's even, like, online universities that will give you a degree and that are way cheaper. Like, there's so many options that we have today. And even at the end of the day, I really hate this notion that you need a college degree to be happy. There's so many jobs that our society needs you to do that do not require a college degree. I know our parents mean well, But I actually think they're doing us a disservice with this whole like hammering in of just college. If you don't go to college, it's not worth it. It's actually an awful thing to teach your children. And I know that, you know, if I ever have kids, I'm definitely not going to hammer in those points on my kids. I am going to make sure that they know that they have options and that they don't necessarily need to go to college or university to live happy lives. So, you know, I also want to like briefly mention all the SJW crap that's going on, at least in like campuses in America. It's a lot of like stupid shit that's being taught to kids. And I definitely would like to say, like, if you're going to take a college degree, like, at least try and pick one of the more useful ones. There are so many crap degrees out there that do not give you any work at all. Like, don't put yourself in debt to take a stupid sociology degree that is not going to give you anything. And I'm not flinging dirt at people who study sociology. I realize that there are some good applications for that, but just think a little bit. Think with your brain, and if you have a clear plan in mind, you follow that. If not, just how about just working for a couple of years once you're done with high school? Once you're done with your mandatory school, this is what I did. And this is, my father actually supported me in this. My mom went crazy over it. When I was done with high school, I just decided to go out working. And I was like, you know, I'm just going to work for a couple of years until I figure out what I want to do with my life. And I feel like that is a very underrated thing to do among kids. I really, really do. Because it's like this rush to get into education. You know, once you're done with high school, you have to go straight over to university or college. Why? Why not just let them work for a couple of years? Like, I learned more from working than I did in school. Than I ever did in school. The practical experience that I got out in the field, just working like various jobs. Like, I worked as a guide. I worked at a storehouse. I worked in an ice cream booth selling ice cream. I learned way more from those years than I ever did in school. Ever. Like, practical experience trumps everything in my opinion. I'm not going to talk shit about education because, you know, there are definitely some important aspects to education, but I do feel like in today's day and age, we kind of like almost overhype education a little bit. Like, it's the end all be all. Like, without education, there's nothing you can do with your life. That is complete BS. The world is changing very rapidly, and honestly, I think the college structure that we have right now is kind of failing to keep up. And I think we will probably see a drastic shift in the role of college moving forward. So the next question comes in from Death Star, and he asks, what Fire Emblem games would you like remade, and what changes would you like to see in the remakes? So I kind of talked a lot about Fire Emblem 4 already, but I still have to say that Fire Emblem 4 is the one game I think they really should remake. I think that actually remaking Tracia 776 would be a lot easier. And considering they remade Gaiden, which was one of the lesser known games, I could definitely see them like suddenly busting out a Tracia remake. It would actually be a lot of fun, I think, because that game's a lot less of a headache because it's more like the traditional Fire Emblem games that we know. Whereas Fire Emblem 4 has a huge amount of challenges with it. Like, how do we just like remake it exactly as it was, but with better graphic and quality of life improvements? Do we keep the non-trading personal gold system, you know, the castle garrisoning and all that? Do we just keep all that in? Do we keep the humongously sized maps, or do we break it up into smaller ones? Do we add Gaiden chapters? Do we add more characters? There's so many questions that needs to be answered with the Fire Emblem 4 remake that I think it's probably best to just avoid it altogether. Even though I really badly want to see a remake of it, I think that the developers just don't want to get into it. So I'm just going to say Binding Blade because I think that, you know, it's a simple, easy game that would be quite easy to remake. It's not very complex. It doesn't have like a lot of mechanics that would be hard to modify into modern Fire Emblem. And it is like, it would give Roy like a final, like localized release in the West, which, you know, the only way you can play Binding Blade today is to get a translation patch, right? And I think that would honestly be really good. The director of Shadows of Valentia said that he would love to remake Binding Blade next. So there is some hope, I think, that might happen at some point. Now, as for what they should do with Binding Blade, I don't really think they should change all that much, if I'm going to be completely honest. I think the way Echo stayed pretty faithful to Gaiden was a nice touch. The map design kind of sucked, but aside from that, I really liked how they presented it. So, like, an Echo-style remake of Binding Blade would be absolutely wonderful. They could honestly stay very faithful, because I think that, yeah, while the map design in Binding Blade isn't like spectacular always, it does have decent maps, at least better than Gaiden had. So I think they could probably remake it very faithfully and change very little, and people would still really like it. I'd be all for like making minor modifications, such as like speeding up the supports. They are extremely slow. I don't need to put my characters next to each other for 50 turns, thank you, to unlock a C support. That'd be okay. I also would be fine with them buffing some of the lesser, like the more weak characters, like some of the late game pre-promotes that are a little bit underwhelming, and, you know, some of the characters that just don't have much of a purpose, like Boris and Volt and Dorothy and stuff like that. I'm okay with them giving a little bit of a buff to them. I don't want them to go full Redux style and like make everyone good, but they could definitely do a little bit of balance fine-tuning. I also wouldn't mind them adding a little bit of an extra story. Like, one thing I think they definitely could do with Binding Blade is that they could add some of the manga elements to it. They could add some of the manga characters, like Al, like Tina, for example. I don't remember the name of the Armor Knight, but there's like a bit, like a little squad of units that follow this Al guy around, and I wouldn't necessarily mind seeing them added into the game. Even as DLC would be fine with me, honestly. Like, there's gonna be DLC regardless of what we do, so we might as well get some good DLC, right? So yeah, no, I think expanding the story a little bit would be okay, but as long as they don't fundamentally change too much, because I do love Binding Blade, and if it ever gets a remake, I want to see a faithful remake, similar to how Echoes did with Gaiden. And please give us someone that really has a heart and passion for the game, because I think one of the reasons why Echoes turned out so brilliantly was because the guy behind it, the guy directing it, he had such an emotional relationship with Gaiden, because he played Gaiden with his dad, and growing up, and then his dad died, so Gaiden was sort of like a memento to his dad, so you could really tell with Echoes how much love was poured into it, because there's just so much heart and soul in the game. So I hope we get to see that in the next eventual remake. That being said, I want to end this on a little bit of a pessimistic note. There's absolutely no guarantee we'll ever get a Fire Emblem remake again, right? Just saying. People kind of speak with a certainty like that another Echoes game is coming. Yes, we do know that a remake for the 3DS was cancelled, but there is no indication whatsoever that they're ever going to remake another Fire Emblem game. They haven't specifically said that it's gonna happen. They've said that they want to, but that is not the same thing as gonna happen. So, you know, we talk a lot about the next Fire Emblem remake. I made a whole video on it, so I'm definitely guilty. But I think it's also important to have a little bit of a reality check here. There is absolutely no guarantee that another remake is ever going to happen. Just because they did it once doesn't mean it's going to be a series. Echoes will not necessarily be a series that they're going to release every so often. It could have been a one-off. I'm just saying. So the next question comes in from Corman, aka Miserable Meme, who asks, since it looks like you enjoy playing Ocarina of Time, would you play another Legend of Zelda game once you finish this one? Like maybe A Link to the Past or Twilight Princess? So, once again, this question is a little bit outdated because it was asked a little while ago, and I'm just answering it now. This will happen sometimes, where a question will kind of answer itself. Because, of course, now I've finished Ocarina of Time, and everyone knows that Twilight Princess is going to be my next game. However, I might as well talk a little bit about what game I would like to play once I'm done with Twilight Princess. So, I still don't know if I'm going to enjoy the game or not, but I assume so, because it's apparently a pretty cool game. But one of the games that I've definitely looked at is A Link to the Past, because that is available on the 3DS, so it would be very easy for me to emulate. At some point, I probably will also play Breath of the Wild, but I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it yet. Maybe it'll be a stream. I think I should probably be solo for that. Apparently, it's like a game that you should experience solo. So we'll see. I haven't quite decided yet. But yeah, no, I'm definitely playing more Zelda. I am definitely loving the Zelda games, and I'm very much looking forward to playing more. So the last question of the day comes in from Anonymous, who asks, have you ever played any games from series like Shin Megami Tensei or Xenoblade, or any sort of niche JRPGs? Short answer, no, I have not. I recorded one episode of Tokyo Mirage Sessions with Rin, and we played it for about 40 minutes, and I decided not to upload it, not because I wasn't happy with the commentary or anything, I think it was fine, but because I just didn't really think it was all that much fun to play, and I didn't want to get a part out and have people asking me for years to come, like, when's the next part of Tokyo Mirage Sessions? So I just didn't really end up uploading it, which is a bit of a shame, I guess. I just didn't feel like it. I didn't really feel like it. The game really struck a chord with me. Xenoblade is a game that I get asked to play a lot. One guy that I play World of Warcraft with, he found my YouTube channel after we were done raiding, and he keeps whispering me like, oh, you gotta play Xenoblade, it's so good. So it's definitely a game I could see myself trying out at some point, but I can't really promise anything. I'm a little bit boring when it comes to games. I honestly prefer to just play the same games all the time. I'm a guy that like really focuses hard on one franchise. So there's a lot of games that I just simply haven't played because they didn't really interest me at the time. Which is why I'm able to play Ocarina of Time for the first time, like at the age of 30. Like it's, again, like there's so many games that I missed out on. So never say never. Probably will at some point. Who knows what the future will bring. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Those were all the questions that I got asked. I would just like to remind everyone, please, for the next one, include your usernames unless you want to be anonymous. If you want to be anonymous, then that's, of course, completely fine. Reminding you once again that the next hangout is happening on the 16th of May, so be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. You get to beat me up in Smash. And, you know, I just gotta, you know, round this all up with a big thank you to my wonderful patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing. You're the whole reason why I can do this day in, day out. Thank you so much for your contributions, whether, you know, whether you're a bronze tier or a silver tier, like every single one of you are contributing to me being able to do this every day. And I cannot really thank you enough for that. I really cannot. Like, it's humbling and like, I get almost emotional when I think about it. Like, it's you guys are amazing. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for everything that you do for me, for supporting me. For many of you have supported me for years now. It's honestly insane to think about. It really is. I owe so much to you guys, and I hope that I'm able to give at least something back to you. Sometimes I really do feel like I'm not giving nearly enough as I should. But I hope that at least you enjoy these videos, and I hope you enjoy the hangout. I hope to see as many of you there. Please participate. I always love getting in touch with you guys, hearing your voices, getting to know you, and playing games with you. And, you know, beating me up in Smash, I assume that's kind of a fun thing to do, hopefully. It seems like you enjoyed it last time. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. This has been the Patreon Q&A. My name is Mengs. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.